Hello, aviators. Welcome back to the Finer Points. Well, you guys, I just got back from Sun and Fun 2025, and I'll give you a quick sort of review, I think, of like the show. I've been going there since 2006, and a lot has changed, mostly for the better. It looks like Sun and Fun is really in a healthy place. I heard a rumor, I don't know much about it, but maybe there was some change in management a few years ago. I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but the general gist of it is the displays are great. All the aircraft manufacturers are there. There was a lot going on inside the exhibit halls, which I'll talk to you about in just a moment. But they expanded the whole parking area behind the Warbird section, and seemed like a lot of people were flying in. And in years past, it always felt like the fly-in part of it was maybe tucked away, was sort of hidden from view somewhere. But this year, everything just felt cohesive and together. They had a stole competition, which I caught the very first night that I was there. Um, and yeah, just all in all, I think Sun and Fun's in a great spot, and strongly recommend visiting the show next year, 2026. Already looking forward to it. But the main theme for me of the event, and I think for a lot of people, was just the issues we're having with GA safety, or just aviation safety altogether. On day one, I attended a press release that AOPA, press conference that AOPA put together, where they talked about their national safety pause. By the way, I really hate that language, safety pause. Maybe like just take a moment to think about it, but keep flying. We're not pausing anything. But safety is so important to everybody in this industry, whether you know it or not. I hate to sound like a broken record, but you may have heard me talk about what happened in 1986, where in less than 10 years, we went from 980,000 pilots to less than 200,000 pilots because the insurance companies stopped insuring planes, the manufacturers stopped making airplanes, the whole industry just kind of ground to a halt. We don't want that to happen again. Okay, so if you're new to this, relatively new, anytime after 1997 really is when things got going again. But if you're relatively new to this, don't think this doesn't matter for you, right? Okay, it does. It matters to everybody. So it's good to see AOPA and EAA jumped in on it. So all the member organizations and everybody just started talking about, hey, we need to do something about this, right? We need to hit the emergency stop here just for a second and figure out what we can do to help make flying safer. There is some also some grumbling from the FAA about possibly pushing toward a 141 situation in training, so that we do less training in the 61 environment and more in the 141 environment. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about that, but my point is that the whole industry is reacting. So not just the member organizations, but the FAA. Everybody's trying to figure out what can we do to prevent GA accidents, and really accidents across aviation. But for our little corner of the world, for my little corner of the world, what can we do in general aviation? And then you see a lot, and when you go through the exhibit halls or you read through any magazine these days, you see a lot about, there's a lot of new technology out there. Garmin's got an entire display of retrofit glass panels, from the G3X, the G500, to the the Garmin 650 Navigator, the 750 Navigator, the GFC 500 Autopilot, the GFC 700 Autopilot. I mean, there's all this tech out there. There are tons of EFBs, not just ForeFlight and Garmin Pilot. There's tons of smaller EFBs. Those are electronic flight bags, for anybody that doesn't know the acronym. And a lot of talk about AI. Okay, but I am a firm believer that none of those things, there's no AI that's going to fix safety. There's no pink line that's going to magically fix the GA accident rate. What we really need to do is dive into the essentials. We need to figure out what, honestly, like what we can't let go of. I'm going to play a little clip for you guys from the office hours session that we had last Friday. If you didn't know it, I'm at my desk every Friday. We do TFP office hours, where often we get like DPEs in there. Or this week we were joined by Jim Pittman and Brian Schiff, and just having a great conversation. It's the idea is you bring your questions to me. We talk about anything you really want to talk about, but often we just get into really great conversations. And I read an excerpt from a Navy training book from the 1940s, and my gut feeling is we need to sort of get back to this. All right. So the Finer Points just released a syllabus, and you can find that syllabus in our ground school app in the resources tab there. And the syllabus really calls for the first 25 hours of training, we have the PFD dimmed, right? We're using the backup instruments. We're drawing on the window. If you're in a standard panel airplane, we've got paper covering the flight instruments. My feeling is we need to do better at the fundamentals. Like we need to look at the last 120 years and figure out what were we doing really well as a group and what were we failing to do well, and how do we improve right back there in those core essentials, not layering on new data driven debriefs and AI technology and pink lines. I mean, all of that stuff is great. That's all great if it's being used as a tool and not a crutch. And the only way that we're going to be able to use that stuff as a tool is if we're teaching the fundamentals, you know, in a way that really works, that we're investing in a pilot's education early on, investing in their training early on. How are they connecting the fundamental dots of controlling an airplane? I'm not going to make any judgments about some of the accidents we've seen, but my gut tells me that some of the accidents we've seen recently or some of the incidents we've seen recently just simply would not have happened 30 years ago. So what's going on out there? And, I know a lot of people agree with me, but yet I walk around the Sun and Fun showgrounds and I still see signs that say 0 to commercial pilot in 5 months, right? Which is absolutely terrifying. There's no way you can do that well. There's literally no way you can do that well. And then probably what's happening in situations like that is that the people who are, 5 months in and are now commercial pilots are going to become the instructors that teach the new batch of kids coming in. So you might be flying for less than a year, and all of a sudden you're teaching the new people that come in. All right. There are some big brands associated with this type of accelerated training. There are a ton of smaller brands associated with this type of accelerated training. But I think that this could be a detriment. This type of thing can be a detriment to all of us. If we go back to just understanding that safety matters to everybody, it's important that we're not rushing people through the process. And my hope is with the Finer Points releasing this syllabus, and it'll be coming available in Flight Schedule Pro soon, my hope is that we can make a difference, the Finer Points can, by providing a syllabus that really does teach the fundamentals in a way that counts and has an app to go along with it so that anybody out there in the world can see this is what I would be teaching if you were to come to me after 2 decades of teaching. This is what I would be making sure you knew at various times along the way. So anyway, hopefully we can be kind of a big brother mentor and digital mentor in a way, but it's really just, like I said, it's not about the technology that we're layering on. It's really about teaching those fundamentals in a way that is more effective. So let's just listen to an excerpt here from, this is last Friday's office hours. We do these every Friday. And if you want to hear this entire conversation, it's available at Patreon. The support of the patrons is how I do that. It's how I dedicate that time every single week. And so if you'd like to join us in office hours, simply become a patron and you can do that. And hopefully we'll be able to post these archives there as well. So if you have missed anything, you can catch up on the old ones. So anyway, let's check it out. This is an excerpt from office hours. This is me just talking about what I think will make a difference in flying safety. I wanted to read you guys something though. So one of my colleagues on my team bought me this beautiful book. It's fragile. It's almost, to me, this is almost like a museum piece. But if you can't read it backwards, it says Fly Through Instruments. And it's a Navy training book, I believe from the 40s. And in the back of it, by the way, they have all the Oscar pattern and the Bravo pattern and all the stuff that you find in our app, but they have all that stuff kind of drawn as exercises for instrument pilots. But I just want to read, here's a couple exercises that they just encourage instrument pilots to do, all right? Exercise 3 was it's called small nose position changes. That's it, small nose position changes. It says trim the airplane at normal cruise flight and make small but definite pitch changes, starting with changes of 3/4 of the width of the horizon bar. All right, so if you're flying a Cirrus or a glass panel, it's not don't imagine the yellow triangle in the middle, but those little bars on the outside, those would be your bars. You're going to pitch up 3/4 of the width of those yellow bars. That's it. And then use the horizon for reference and try to exact altitude changes of 100 to 150 feet up or down, and then level off. Okay, and that's essentially the exercise. Then exercise 4 is extreme nose position changes. So from normal cruise, alternately raise and depress the nose 1, 2, and 3 horizon bar widths above and below the horizon. So this whole day of, I mean, those two exercises right there, just practicing as an instrument pilot, pitching up these tiny pitch changes, noting the effect of that, just going up 100 or 150 feet and then returning back to cruise. And the more extreme version is, pitching up 2 horizon bars or 3 horizon bars up or down, and the same kind of thing, then returning back to cruise. And you read this and you realize like these types of exercises, like no one's doing that these days, right? Like, when you go to the Garmin booth and you see their G3X Touch, or you see their G500 or their new fancy GFC 700 autopilot, all these people training are training on that equipment and not spending any time investing in basic instrument flying skills. And I don't have the visual version of this book, but it's the same there. It's the same with, that's why I recommend flying the Lazy Eight, or stall exercises, or coordination rolls, or covering the flight instruments. And I think that the answer to safety is there. It's just because we have all this great technology, that's not going to be the answer to safety. ForeFlight is not going to be our saving grace. It's going to be going back to the stuff that they were doing on the old instruments because you had to. There was no choice back then, right? I mean, back then you had to learn to fly this stuff with precision or you would die pretty quick. Today, you can get away with it for a long time, maybe even a whole career without learning this stuff, but it doesn't mean we should, right? Like this level of precision flying is still the answer to safety. And I'm a little concerned, like just to be totally frank, about where this is all going, because I've talked about this before, but like in the 80s, this brought down the whole industry for a while. So in 86, everything just ground to a halt. Insurance companies stopped insuring planes. Plane manufacturers stopped making planes. 900,000 pilots turned into 150,000 pilots in less than a decade. It brought the whole thing to a halt. So if there is one thing that could bring this whole industry down, it is airplanes falling out of the sky, or the perception that the public has right now of where, commercial aviation is. And I just don't want to see that happen. And so it's hard to walk around Sun and Fun, and in one ear I'm hearing that, and I'm actually talking to people at AOPA like, how can we help? We just released a syllabus. Will you guys review it? Brian, thank you, sir, is helping maybe get it influenced with NAFI. Maybe they know the syllabus exists, but products like this and people that are training to those higher standards, that's going to be the answer. And then you go walk around Sun and Fun and you see a sign at a booth that says I can't remember what it was, 0 to commercial pilot in 5.5 months. That's what it is. And it's just like, you see stuff like that, or you look at ATP and it's like, I mean, that could bring the industry down too. All right, aviators, I hope you got something out of that. Please come listen to that full conversation that is available at Patreon. Also, there are now video versions of the podcast you're listening to here. If you would like to find the TFP Clips channel on YouTube, you can see my ugly mug talking to you, or you can just download these podcasts as you always have and listen to the audio. But either way, we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We've got a video and audio version of this podcast. A huge thanks to the patrons for that support. That is critical in me getting quality flight training out to the internet regularly and for many, many years. So I thank the patrons for that support. If you're benefiting from these podcasts or from the YouTube videos that you see us put out, please consider coming to Patreon and pledging some support, at least for some period of time. Also, we have, as always, a free 3-day trial of the Ground School app. There are now 4 courses in there. Private instrument, a mastering landings course, and a standard operating procedures course. And you get all 4 courses for one price with unlimited access. So check out that free trial and see what you can't get out. Even if you sign up for a month, I know that there's extremely valuable content in the Ground School app that every pilot could benefit from. So thank you for downloading this podcast. I'm Jason Miller, and until I see you again, be safe and fly your best.